Hi, I'm Christina Owen with Get Involved Foundation. I work here in Silicon Valley in Palo Alto and surrounding areas helping students to pursue their interests. A lot of times what we do is set up internships where students will promote a cause and so they fulfill service hours, but also they're able to do an internship. But one of the really great things that you can do either during an internship or just pursuing your interest to find out about how to pursue a certain career that you might be interested in is informational interviews. I found out about this technique when I was reinventing myself in my early 40s, and my sister-in-law started introducing me to people that she was working with here in Silicon Valley. And at first, I found it to be quite intimidating, but I became more comfortable with it over time. And now that I've been working with high school students, not only as a career advisor on Palo Alto High School campus for 8 years, but now as director of the nonprofit Get Involved Foundation, where we're helping students on a broader scale to pursue their interests. So yesterday we had a really great experience doing some informational interviews, and a student who's doing an internship developing career resources for his colleagues and also an underserved group of students to find out more about careers in transportation, mobility, and transportation technology. So what we're doing is finding out about how to pursue those careers and what it takes. And so I've been teaching this student, Ethan, how to do his informational interviews. And we're starting with just three. So what I recommend is that you take a topic that or a career that you're interested in finding out about more about, and just start with three people or one. But don't get too big. It takes a lot of time just to set up one interview. So let's go with the three, like we did with Ethan. One of those interviews was done on the phone and two in person. But the first thing you have to think about is who can really give you pertinent information about this career or topic you want to find out about. And look into that person's career. Luckily now with the internet, you can really find out a lot about someone's career if they're on community organizations that are connected to their work, what their education and background was, and different employers they've had, and even their education, of course, like I mentioned. So you want to find out about that person. When you contact that person, you're most likely going to do it by email. And it's always best if you can get a personal introduction from somebody who knows that person. LinkedIn is a great source, or just talk to people you know and see if anybody knows how to get in touch with that person. If not, go ahead and try just a random email and or call the front office of the place where they work, or if they have an assistant, or try to get to the people who manage that person's time. So jumping through those hurdles, that's the hard part. Think about the type of email that you're sending. So generally, most of us are slammed with email. I'll bet you are too. You don't read emails if you don't know that person, right? Okay, so most of us are unfortunately slammed with email in this day and age. So you have to make it a catchy subject line in the email, and just be short. And ask if you could do an informational interview about their career as part of your studies and your career pathways for 30 minutes or less. Sometimes they'll offer you more, but try not to ask for more than 30 minutes. Remember, keep that email short, and be sure to include your cell phone and other contact information that you might have in your email. Look very, very professional. One person that I connect students with, a researcher on Stanford campus, that she's pretty generous with her time. She always wants a resume of the student, whether it's a high school student or a college student. So if you have a resume, definitely include that, or some other kind of profile where you can show that you're not just trying to rub shoulders with people. You really need some information to help you make your post-high school choices or post-college choices, as the case may be. Okay, so you've got the contact, you've got the intro, and let's say they respond. And then, well, hopefully you have given them a few choices of times that work for you. That's the hard part, is scheduling. Be very flexible, because they're not going to be flexible. They can't be flexible. So you need to be most flexible with your time. Make it happen. Even if they say 6:30 in the morning, make it happen. The other part is to prepare for the interview. Please, please, please write some questions down ahead of time. Write questions down ahead of time, knowing what you are interested in, what kind of information you need to get to pursue your interests, and about that person's career and what they've done, so that they know that you've been paying attention and you're not just connecting with a random person whose face happened or name happened to appear in an article or something. They want to know that you're really interested in what they do. So write those questions out ahead of time, and either take a paper and a notebook or your laptop. Be sure that you can actually get into your laptop if you can see it and get into the file if that's what you're using, because it's always best when you're asking the questions to type out answers, or even record if they'll let you record the interview. So get those questions written out ahead of time. Practice asking the questions, because if you're not familiar with the questions, the interview will have awkward pauses. So ask questions like a reporter, not basic questions of things that you could find out easily online. Be curious, inquisitive about that person's pathway and how it might lead you to develop your own pathway. I'm going to leave those ideas of questions up to you. Ethan and I worked on the questions. He was interviewing 3 people. He had a separate set of questions, 7 or 8 questions for each person that he was interviewing. And that's, I would recommend that. It took about 30 minutes for each interview. And so you've got your questions written out, and you're going to be on time, if not a little bit early, not too early for the interview. You'll set them off, but just a couple minutes early. Never be late. And so when you go into the interview, be sure to give a proper introduction of yourself to the person that you're interviewing. For example, we were interviewing Jonah over at a design firm in Palo Alto, and Ethan and I were together. I'm the project advisor and Ethan's the student. So I took the lead in introducing myself and Ethan to Jonah. He didn't introduce himself to us because, of course, we knew who he was, but we kind of gave a little bit of background of what our goals were in talking to a few people about the field of transportation, mobility, and transportation technology. So after you make that introduction and you let them know that you have a few questions ahead of time, people who enjoy their careers love talking about themselves. So you really need to pay attention and be interested in what they're sharing with you. So that might give you ideas to ask follow-up questions that aren't on your list. That is perfectly fine and recommended. So there's a chance you might not get to all 7 or 8 of your questions, but you might get better information than if you'd stuck with your questions. So you really have to make a balance between following your question format and listening to what they're telling you, because they might be giving you some really special nuggets of information, like our interview yesterday with Jamie over at Google, and she said, "Oh, my friend Anita is in charge of such and such project over in Phoenix at a different company." And I said to Ethan, "Aha, did you hear that?" And so we talked about, oh, could we contact Anita as well? So those are really great things when they mention someone else, and you might encourage them to mention someone else that you could talk to. Those are always great. In addition to that, while you're talking, and it's not necessarily a question, but it's something that you should get used to asking. And it is, are there other people that you would recommend I talk to? Like I mentioned, are there internship or job shadow opportunities for people in my position, either now or in the next several years, that you would recommend or that you could point me to? Please, please, please ask that. because and record everything they say about that. You'll come back to it within a number of years. You will come back to it. So that's kind of the bulk of your interview time. Be cognizant of time. You don't want to go past 30 minutes unless they're inviting you to go past 30 minutes. If they're giving you a tour or they offer you something extra, then just ask them, say, what time do you need to be through? Something like that. But just plan on 30 minutes if they don't give you something extra. So toward the end of the interview, you need to be the one to make it comfortable for them to end the interview, because they're going to feel bad. But you need to let them know it's okay. This is all you expect. You got some more contact information of other people that you can talk to. You've addressed most of the questions that you had lined up ahead of time. They know who you are. And please give them a wholehearted, a hearty thanks for sharing their time with you. And I recommend asking to take a picture for a couple reasons. One, well, it's fun to remember that you did this informational interview. Take a picture of you and the person that you're interviewing, and it might be confidential surroundings, so they can say, oh, it has to be in front of this white wall. That's what happened to us at Google yesterday. That's fine. Take a picture. Because you'll remember that person later, and tomorrow, the next day after your interview, I want you to send that picture to that career mentor who you interviewed with a thank you. And that will really mean a lot to them. You could even make a meme out of it, something really positive about how awesome people are to share their time. So those are my best tips for doing informational interviews, not only in Silicon Valley, but in wherever you are, wherever you're pursuing your interests. And I wish you all the best luck as you do so. And thanks for listening.